Hi, this is Rudy Jones, PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Welcome to That Was the Week That Was in South Carolina College Baseball for April the 20th through the 26th. Lots of good things going on in the state this past week. We'll hit some of the highlights. Also look at the standings for all the conference teams, updated team rankings, my team of the week, and also get into the fact that some of the conferences have already announced their tournament schedules. And we'll just talk about things like that, such as the team vibes as well. Okay, we'll start out with looking back at a few of the games over the past week. Some nice games on Tuesday, some good wins for teams over ranked teams. Lander got a 13-12 win over Wingate. Wingate's ranked in the top 25 in most of the D2 polls. A good program, a good win for Lander in that game. Also on Tuesday, Spartanburg Methodist beat Georgia Gwinnett down in Lawrenceville, Georgia. That was a really good win for the Pioneers. They had got blown out. I think they were outscored something like 51-8 in 3 games by Georgia Gwinnett early in the season up in Spartanburg. But Pioneers got a nice win over the Grizzlies in that one. Again, 9-8. Grizzlies ranked 1 or 2 in the country in NAI, depending on which polls you look at. And also, USC Aiken got a nice win over Francis Marion in non-conference play on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the Citadel beat one of its old Southern Conference rivals in Georgia Southern. Good win for the Bulldogs to get them some momentum. They've been playing much better lately. Well, they've been playing well most of the season anyway, but they're just getting better luck as far as being able to pull out the win and get it off. And they got it in that one. How about some of the games series over the weekend? Of course, we had South Carolina playing at Kentucky, or playing against Kentucky. The Gamecocks won the first 2 games, and they really kind of frittered away Game 3 on Sunday with some of their defensive miscues. They put pressure on the Wildcats with the first couple of games of the wins, and Kentucky admittedly helped them out with some bad plays on defense, but the Gamecocks really probably needed to get that sweep to build a little momentum, but they did win 2 out of 3, so they can go on from there. Louisville beat Clemson 3 times. 3 pretty close games, and the Tigers just could not pull it off. Each time it seemed like the Cardinals would pull away late. On Sunday, Clemson got 2 runs in the top of the 9th inning with a 2-out hit by Tristan McClatty, only to have Louisville hit a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 10th to complete the sweep in that game. I know the Tigers are not too pleased with that going on up there. Coastal Carolina won 2 out of 3 games over Texas State in the Sun Belt Conference play. And on the Sunday loss, they actually really probably had some good news anyway. Cameron Flukie, their ace pitcher, was able to pitch a couple of innings. He struck out 4, did not allow a hit. I'm sure they'll check and make sure how his arm feels after he's missed much of the year. But I'm sure that they'll try to, if there are no issues, they'll continue to try to extend him out and get him ready for a bigger and bigger role in the end of the regular season and on into postseason. Sorry about that. Francis Marion got a nice series sweep over King in the Peach Belt Conference. Notable about that, Charlie Bussey III of Francis Marion scored his 101st run of the season on Saturday. You think about it, 101 runs scored in 50 games. Didn't look at what happened to South Carolina as far as who scored today, but the top 4 run scorers for the Gamecocks individually had 100, I believe it was like 103 runs, maybe 105 at this point in the season. All of them added together, and Bussey had outscored, almost outscored those 4. Interesting though, but the Patriots are rolling along. Gardner Webb took 2 out of 3 out of Winthrop in the Big South Conference, kind of brought Winthrop back into the pack, and now fell into a tie with High Point in the Big South Conference standings. Mercer created issues for Wofford. They won all 3 games down in Macon, and the sweep tightened up the Southern Conference race as well. North Greenville extended its winning streak to 17 games before they finally lost on a walk-off single in the bottom of the 9th inning at Emmanuel in the regular season finale. And the thing is, I know you always want to win, but when you got that long winning streak going into the end of the season and into the postseason, you always worry and said, well, we're due for a not as good a game, due for a loss. I'm sure they were glad if they had to lose, they did it in the regular season, so they could just get that flushed and get on focused again on the postseason. Erskine won 2 out of 3 at Young Harris, a really nice win for the Flying Fleet. They started the season very slow, but they've come back. They got a winning record for the season and finished well in Conference Carolinas. So they're finishing strong. The Citadel won 2 out of 3 over UNC Greensboro in the SoCon play down at Charleston. They reached 500 for the season on Saturday, but they lost on Sunday to drop back one game under. USC Upstate is struggling right now. They've lost 9 straight games. They got swept at Samford in a non-conference series. So the Spartans are looking for some better things to happen. College of Charleston, they continue to have trouble with Campbell. Second time they played the Camels this year, and the Camels just kind of dominated the whole series both times, or a second series I should say, and they dominated both series pretty much. So the Cougars were at 500 going into the weekend. Now they're back 3 games under 500. Spartanburg Methodist, just check out this line in their game against Montreat on Saturday. Now on Friday, the Pioneers won a couple of games in a doubleheader in the Appalachian Athletic Conference series. Game 3 of the series on Saturday. Montreat won 15-13 in 5 innings before the game was stopped because of rain. Look at these pitching lines. The Pioneers gave up 8 hits. They walked 11, and they threw 11 wild pitches. How about Montreat? They won, must have done well too. They gave up 9 hits, walked 8, and they threw 6 wild pitches. So that was just kind of strange as that was going on like that. Also, Florida Georgia Tech went 4-0 this past week. They swept USC Union to wrap up the regular season play in Region 10. And also, USC Sumter got a 3-game sweep of USC Salkehatchie. One little notable note out of that, Ryan Pikatowski, or Pikatowski, if I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize to him and his family. He committed to West Virginia earlier this week. He is the school's USC Sumter's career single-season home runs leader. Of course, he's kind of in a chase with Carew Bates. They're both hitting a bunch of homers, doing a lot of good things for Coach Will Thompson's team. But Pikatowski, I think he's got either 23 or 24 home runs. I'll have to check at the stats, but he's really done well. And if he does wind up going to West Virginia and doesn't get drafted, I've got no clue about his draft status as to whether he's a high draft pick or not. But if he does get into school to West Virginia, that should be some good stuff for the Mountaineers to go on. And that's about it for the last week. Let's look at the ranking, or the team of the week for this past week. I picked Coker to be the team of the week. They went 3-0 against Tusculum, scored 14 runs in all 3 games, and that helped them qualify for the South Atlantic Conference Series tournament. The Cobras had winning records both of the past 2 seasons. That's the first time that's happened in over a decade and a half. As far back as I could go, I could not find back-to-back winning seasons for a Coker team. But they had some good vibes coming into this year, and things just did not go well for them starting out. They were 1-13 to start the season, and never really was able to get back up to 500. It wound up finishing 15-32, but with that 3-game sweep over Tusculum over the weekend, they qualified for the South Atlantic Conference tournament. So that's why I picked them for the team of the week. Now, granted, getting into the tournament just means they get to play the number 1 team in the conference in Catawba. But hey, you can't win if you don't play. And so, that's why I picked Coker as my team of the week for this past week. How about Palmetto State Baseball team rankings? And we'll go over the vibes as we go through this. In Division I kept Coastal Carolina at number 1. They went 2-2 last week. They've lost in the Sunday game 3 straight series. But hey, they're still 30-13 overall. They're well in command of the Sun Belt Conference standings. So, they're doing well. And like I said, with Cameron Fluke coming back, I'm sure that things are feeling pretty good, pretty upbeat on the Grand Strand. Number 2, I put Clemson. They've just struggled. Their defense has given them issues. They give up some late home runs, and it's just not a good time for the Tigers right now. With that loss to Louisville on Sunday, they fell to 6-15 in the conference, and usually the at-large bids in the NCAA tournament, you usually got to go, say, maybe 14-16 to qualify, and at the outside 13-17. So that would mean that Clemson right now would have to do 8-1, 7-2, or 9-0 to probably really strengthen up their chances at an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. Failing that, they probably have to win the tournament or maybe even really play strong and reach the finals. But, it's not looking good for the postseason for Clemson right now. Winthrop had a tough week. They went 1-3. I left them at number 3 in the rankings. I had Clemson number 2, as I mentioned. Number 4, South Carolina, I swapped them with Wofford. The Gamecocks went 3-1, got the win over PC. Got 2 wins over Kentucky, and they could have had a shot to get that third win and have a third win over the Wildcats and get a unbeaten week. Got up to 500 briefly before losing on Sunday. But I think the Gamecocks feeling better about themselves if they could just quit making those mistakes. Much like Clemson, they're killing themselves with their own mistakes. Base running, errors, fielding, whatever you want to talk about. They're just not doing some things. And some of the best teams in college baseball, they don't beat themselves. You remember some of Ray Tanner's teams at Columbia. If you gave them an opening, they're going to beat you, and they're not going to beat themselves. They're not going to make foolish isn't the word, but they're not going to make poor mistakes, I guess, for lack of a better terminology. They are just making plays, much like I said about Clemson, that are not characteristic of teams that are of postseason caliber. Wofford, I moved down from 4th to 5th after they lost those 3 games at Mercer. Still, they're having a fine season at 30-14. College of Charleston, I left them at 6th place. They went 1-3. Got a good win but again, lost those 3 games to Campbell. That's no disgrace. The Citadel, I left at 7th. They went 3-1 last week. They had a chance to move over 500 if they'd have won today, but they did not. Charleston Southern went 2-2 last week. They had a nice win over UNC Asheville in Game 2 on Sunday. It was a back-and-forth thing. They wound up scoring 3 runs in the 10th inning to win that game 19-16 after they dropped the opener, which was the conclusion of the Saturday game, which had been suspended by rain. But still, the Buccaneers are having a good season, 24-18. I think they're still feeling pretty good about themselves and the way things are going. USC Upstate, sorry, I don't know what's going on in my throat right now. I'm going to try to take another drink. This is live video streaming, folks. This is what you get. But the Spartans have lost 9 straight games. They were doing so well earlier in the season. Had gotten a few games over 500. They can really hit the ball, but right now they're just not getting enough hits, and some issues with being able to get the other team out too. So I think they're probably feeling kind of down about themselves right now. PC is left them at 10th place in my rankings for Division I teams in the state. They went 1-2 against Radford. The middle game was a blowout after PC won the first game. And then on Sunday, it was a tight game, but Radford scored 4 runs in the 9th and wound up winning by 4 runs. But PC, I think they're just building for future years, maybe is the best way to say it, and get some momentum off the end here. In Division II, North Greenville kept it number 1. They went 2-1. They lost that game to Emmanuel, but won the first 2. They're 42-8. No reason to see they needed to be moved down. Francis Marion is again having a fine season. They're just putting up amazing offensive numbers. I mentioned Charlie Bussey III. They've also got Ethan McAnally, who has set a single season record for homers. He and Bussey are really going 1-2 against each other about that. And they're both top the previous single season record for RBI. Patriots are, they're peaking. They're playing really well right now. Number 3, I got USC Aiken. They did drop 2 out of 3 to North Georgia, but North Georgia's a nationally ranked team. They got the middle game of that series, so I think they still feel pretty good about themselves. The only negative maybe or down feeling is they did not get to host one of the pods of the Peach Belt Conference tournament, because by losing 2 out of 3, that allowed Flagler and Lander to catch up and finish in tie for second, and Lander winds up winning the tiebreaker to be able to host a first-round pod in the Peach Belt tournament. Speaking of Lander, I've got them still at number 4. They've won 9 straight games. They beat St. Leo in 3 games in non-conference play over the weekend. Nice wins for them. Erskine, I mentioned they won over Young Harris. I kept them at number 5. They're 26-24 winning record after they had a tough start. Newberry have it number 6. They're 27-23. They went 3-1 over the week. Got that nice midweek win over USC Aiken I talked about, and also won 2 out of 3 against Mars Hill, the team that actually finished above them in the standings. Number 7, I got Benedict. They went 2-1 last week. They closed out their regular season play with a nice series win over Miles. Anderson, I kept at number 8. They were 2-2 last week, 24-25. They did get a win over a ranked Wingate team in the final game of the regular season. That was a nice way to finish it up. Of course, the Trojans are now through for the season. Coker, as I mentioned before, they went 3-0. They're kept them at 10th place in the Division II rankings for state teams. Southern Wesleyan went 1-3 last week. They got a rain-shortened win over Shorter in the series finale of that, in the regular season finale, and that helped them qualify for the Conference Carolinas tournament. It kept them at 9th place. You know, being able to play, I think they're feeling pretty good about that. USC Beaufort went 0-3 last week, 12-34. Their season's over. Not what they expected or what they were hoping for, I know. Claflin, same thing. Season's over. They were 0-3 last week. Went 4-37. They won 5 games, I believe it was, last year. And I know they were hoping, planning, expecting to win more than 5 this year, but it just did not turn out. In NAI and National Christian College Athletic Schools, Spartanburg Methodist went 3-1 last week, 25-22, qualified for the AAC tournament. Columbia International did not play last week, but they still qualified for the tournament. They're at 17-29. I'm sure they hope they did not get rusty over not getting to play a game in over a week before tournament play begins. Morris went 1-2 last week, 10-17 overall, kept them at number 3 among the teams in that division. Bob Jones went 1-1 last week. They tied the school record for wins in a season. They got a chance to beat it this weekend this coming week against Alice Lloyd, and they'll also probably be in the National Christian College Athletic Association South Regional later on in the year. Voorhees 1-3. They lost their opener in the HBCU AC tournament, then won game 2 over Philander Smith, but were eliminated on Sunday. So the Tigers finished at 11-24. I did mention that Claflin's season is over. It is not over. They will be playing in the CIAA tournament next week, not this coming week. It's involving 4 teams that are actually members of the CIAA in other sports, but the CIAA does not sponsor baseball. So these teams are all playing. One of them's in division, an independent. Claflin's in the Peach Belt, and there are a couple of others in other leagues. So they're going to get together and determine a CIAA champ. So Coach Jalen Bledsoe's team, they do have that chance to get more than 4 wins, and top last year's 5 wins. I forgot about that as I was recording this. Anyway, back to junior colleges. Kept Florence Johnson Tech at number 1. They were 4-0 last week. 46-10 overall. That's a fine record. Really hitting the ball well. And it seems like that they've been able to ration, I guess for lack of a better word, their pitching, where they haven't had to rely on one guy to pitch 4, 5, 6 innings. They bring in some different other guys, and that works pretty well together, and they've had different heroes each day doing some great things on offense. USC Sumter on a 7-game winning streak. You know, you want to be playing as well as you can when you get to this part of the season, and they are at 5-0 this past week, 34-18 on the season. Kept them in second place. USC Union kept in third place. They're at 30-22. Got a couple of wins in midweek against the Blue Claw post-grad team, but their final weekend was against FD Tech, and enough said. You know, FD Tech's pretty much the class of the conference, a region when you don't include Gaston College. Gaston College is just on a whole nother level right now. They finished 4 games ahead of FD Tech in the standings, by the way. USC Salcahatchee's had a tough season. They've lost their last 34 games, 0-6 this past week. 0-3 this past week. So they're trying to look for better things, maybe try to get a surprise in the tournament. And Denmark Tech did not play last week, finished at 1-12, as I mentioned before. And so, you know, they've got things going. How about looking at conference standings? Well, in the ACC, we've got North Carolina is in first place. They're 19-5. They're 2 games ahead of North Carolina, who's at 17-7. Did I say Georgia Tech? I might have said North Carolina first game. But Georgia Tech's 19-5. North Carolina 17-7. Boston College is 16-8. 12-9 are both Miami and Florida State. Virginia's at 12-12 after being swept by Pitt. Pitt is at 10-11, along with NC State, Stanford, and Louisville. Wake Forest and Virginia Tech are 11-13. Duke's at 9-15. California's at 7-14. Notre Dame is at 8-16, and Clemson is at 6-15. Last place with 9 games left in the season. And I don't think there's any scenario that's going to make Clemson be considered for an at-large bid to the tournament if they finish in last place. So they've got to climb and really do some nice things to help go on from there. About the SEC, Georgia's in first place at 13-5, and this one is not up to date, or is it? No, this one is not up to date. Let me call up my other standings, and I can give you some up-to-date records. I apologize for that. I printed it up off the conference website, and they did not have it up to date. Of course, it is only about 6 hours after the latest game ended. Anyway, in the SEC, the standings: Georgia is 15-6. Texas A&M is a half game back at 14-5. Texas is 13-7. They're a game back. At 13-8 is Mississippi State after a sweep of LSU. Auburn is at 12-9. Ole Miss is at 11-10, as are Oklahoma, Florida, Arkansas, Alabama, and Vanderbilt, along with Tennessee, are at 10-11. Kentucky's at 9-12. South Carolina's at 7-14. They've moved ahead of LSU, which got swept by Mississippi State, as I said. And then LSU's at 6-15, and Missouri at 4-17. That was another good thing about the final game of the Kentucky series. Carolina wins that one. They are tied for 13th place in the conference, and can climb up from there. But it is what it is. In the Sun Belt Conference, Coastal Carolina's got a nice, comfortable lead. They are 4 games up on the Southern Miss with 9 games remaining. Coastal is at 17-4. Southern Miss and Appalachian State both 13-8, so there are 2 teams chasing them at 13-8. Troy's at 12-9. South Alabama's at 11-10. Texas State and Arkansas State, along with ULM and Georgia State and Marshall, are all 10-11. I don't know that any of them could catch up the top 3, but there's a logjam right there in the middle of the league. Louisiana's at 9-12, along with Old Dominion. James Madison's 8-13. And Georgia Southern is at 5-16. I was listening to the Citadel Georgia Southern game on the Georgia Southern Network, and they were talking about the fact that they could be in danger of the worst record in school history. They're 12-31 right now. I did not look up what the worst record is, but I tell you, Georgia Southern's been a really good program since the 1970s when Ron Polk, Jack Stallings, and some others were down there. So, it's tough times in Statesboro right now. In the Coastal Athletic Association, we have Northeastern leading in the North Division. They have a 15-6 record. They're tied with Monmouth, actually. Stony Brook's at 12-12. Hofstra's at 9-12. Towson's at 5-16. In the South, Campbell's running away with it. They're 20-4 in the conference. UNCW's at 13-11. Charleston, with its series sweep, fell to tie for 3rd place with William and Mary, both at 10-11. Elon's at 8-16, and North Carolina A&T is at 3-18. In the Big South Conference, as I mentioned, when Winthrop dropped 2 out of 3 to Gardner-Webb, that allowed High Point to tie the Eagles for first place in the conference with 11-4 records. 3 games back is Longwood, which nice climb for them. They're 26-18. They have struggled in the past as a program. Charleston Southern and Radford are both 9-9. They're 3.5 games out. Of course, there's some game. They'll have an off week when High Point and Winthrop will play in other series, so they can catch up on that. Gardner-Webb's at 8-10, along with USC Upstate. PC is at 6-12, and UNC Asheville's at 5-10 in last place after losing 2 of 3 to Charleston Southern. In the Southern Conference, Western Carolina actually moved ahead of Wofford by a half game in the standings, but the Catamounts are now 10-5. Percentage-wise, they're tied with Wofford at 667, along with Sanford. So you got Western Carolina 10-5, Sanford and Wofford at 8-4. East Tennessee State is at 9-6. You got Mercer at 7-5. The Citadel's at 6-9. VMI's at 3-9, and UNC Greensboro is at 3-12. In the Peach Belt Conference, moving on to Division II. North Georgia, of course, won the regular season championship last weekend. They're 27-4. As I mentioned, Aiken, Flagler, and Lander finished in a tie for second, and Lander got the tiebreaker to get the host seed in the tournament. They were all at 20-10. Columbus State, Georgia Southwestern were at 18-12. Georgia College was at 14 and 16. Augusta and Middle Georgia at 12 and 18. USC Beaufort at 4 and 26, and Claflin at 1 and 29. The Peach Belt Conference tournament begins on Friday. The top two teams, North Georgia and Lander, are hosts for a couple of four-team double elimination pods, and the two pod winners advance to the championship round. It's best of three series, May 7th through 8th at the home of the higher seeded surviving team. First round games in Dahlonega at 1 o'clock. North Georgia is going to play number 8 Middle Georgia, and Flagler is going to play Georgia Southwestern at 5. In the first round games at Greenwood at Lander, you've got USC Aiken, the number 3 seed, playing Columbus State at 3. And number 2 Lander plays host to Georgia College at 6 o'clock. Again, that's the first round games. I'll have the pairings or the schedule for the entire tournament set up on PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I may not have the week's schedule included until Monday. Trying to catch up with all these tournaments has been tough to get things going. Anyway, moving on to Conference Carolinas. North Greenville wound up winning the conference regular season championship by 1 game over Francis Marion. The Trailblazers were 28 and 5. Francis Marion 27 and 6. Then you got Belmont Abbey at 26 and 7. Young Harris finished 4th at 24 and 9. Then you've got UNC Pembroke at 21 and 12. Mount Olive at 20 and 12. Erskine at 20 and 13. Emmanuel 16 and 17. Southern Wesleyan at 10 and 23 along with King, but the Warriors won the tiebreaker. Ferrum's at 9 and 23. Shorter's at 8 and 25. Barton at 7 and 26, and Shawan at 4 and 29. The Conference Carolinas tournament will be played in Gastonia this week, starting on Wednesday. Most of the games will be played at Caramont Health Park in downtown Gastonia. 1 game each day on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We played at Sims Legion Park, which is right off of I-85. The play-in games, there'll be single elimination game. Number 8, Emmanuel plays number 9, King at 1 o'clock. And number 7, Erskine plays number 10, Southern Wesleyan at 1. So we'll get a state team through to the second round, but one will also be gone. On Thursday, in the second round games, North Greenville is going to play that Emmanuel King winner in an 11 o'clock game. And then Young Harris, Francis Marion will play that 5 o'clock Wednesday game winner at 3 o'clock on Thursday in Gastonia. The South Atlantic Conference finished up. Catawba wound up winning the conference by 5 games. The Indians were 29 and 4. Wingate at 24 and 9. Lenore Ryan was a half game back at 23 9 and 1. Then you got Mars Hill at 19 13 and 1. Carson Newman and Lincoln Memorial at 19 and 14, along with Newberry. Newberry got the 7th seed in that tiebreaker. Coker's at 12 and 21 in the conference. They got the 8th seed to the tournament. Anderson finished 11 and 22 out of the running. Tusculum 11 and 22. Tusculum 10 and 23. Emory Henry and UVA Wise are both at 6 and 27. South Atlantic Conference, much like the Conference Carolina, Peach Belt Conference, will play their first 2 pods at conference sites. Regular season champ Catawba will play number 8 Coker at 2 o'clock on Friday in Salisbury. Second game on that day will be Lincoln Memorial against Mars Hill. And then at Wingate, number 7 Newberry will be playing at number 2 Wingate at noon on Friday. Carson Newman plays Lenore Ryan in the other game at that pod. They go on through the weekend. The 2 winners advance to the South Atlantic Conference Championship round, which will be in Asheboro, North Carolina, May 8th and the 9th. Appalachian Athletic Conference. Milligan won the regular season championship. They beat Johnson, head-to-head this last weekend to clinch it. The Buffaloes are 22 and 5. Johnson at 20 and 6. Tennessee Wesleyan at 20 and 7. Spartanburg Methodist checks into the 4th seed at 16 and 11, followed by Pikeville and Bryan at 15 and 12. Montreat at 14 and 13, along with Reinhardt. Columbia International was 12 and 14. Then you had Truett McConnell at 8 and 19. Union Commonwealth 3 and 23, and Bluefield at 1 and 25. Tournament schedule. Spartanburg Methodist's first game of the tournament will be against Columbia International at noon Tuesday at Hunter Wright Park, I believe it is called, in Kingsport, Tennessee. The other first round games at 9 a.m. you got number 6 Bryan against number 7 Reinhardt. At 3 o'clock you got number 5 Pikeville against number 8 Montreat. And at 6 o'clock you have number 3 Tennessee Wesleyan and number 10 Truett McConnell. Number 1 Milligan and number 2 Johnson have first round byes, will not play until Wednesday. The SIAC, I've not seen their tournament pairings yet. They should be coming up anytime because they're supposed to be having their tournament beginning this coming weekend as well. Spring Hill is at 29-4. They won the regular season championship, followed by Albany State at 24-6. Edward Waters at 24-9. Savannah State is at 23-10. Benedict finished at 19-11. Morehouse was 17-14. Miles at 13-19. Kentucky State at 12-21. Lane at 10-22. Tuskegee at 8-23. Lemoyne Owen at 7-26. And Clark Atlanta at 6-26. In Region 10, of course, they wrapped up this past week. Gaston College finished with a 27-3 record, first place. 4 games back was Florence Darlington Tech at 23-7. USC Sumter finished third at 17-12. USC Union was fourth at 10-18. Fifth place was USC Lancaster at 9-19, and in sixth place was USC Salkehatchie at 1-28. Now the Region 10 tournament will be played at Lexington County Baseball Stadium starting this weekend, but I've not seen pairings or schedules and things like that. If it is the same as in the past, Gaston College and Florence Darlington Tech will get first round byes, and you'll have Sumter playing Salkehatchie and Union playing Lancaster in first round games, and they'll go on from there. Again, that's just if they go the way they've gone in the past. As I mentioned, I'm not going to be able to get the entire state schedule up for the coming week because I've got to insert all these conference tournament games that are going on. I will try to call up right now some of the Division I games that are coming up this week and just give you an idea of what's going on with that. Just give me a second, please. Of course, if you're still watching there, you're fine with that. On Tuesday, we have Anderson at Augusta in a non-conference game. They get a chance to finish 500. We also have Gardner-Webb at Wofford at 5:30. Charleston Southern at Georgia Southern at 6. Coastal Carolina's at North Carolina at 6 o'clock. That'll be a good one. North Carolina A&T's at Winthrop at 6. And the Citadel plays South Carolina at 6:30 in Columbia. Of course, the Bulldogs beat the Gamecocks in Charleston earlier this year. On Wednesday, in addition to the conference tournaments going on, Alice Lloyd visits Bob Jones for a doubleheader at 2 o'clock at Conisty Park. The Citadel and College of Charleston were supposed to play a game on Wednesday, but they've chosen to cancel it. Weekend coming up, the Division I games. Western Carolina's at Wofford at 5:30. Right there, the Terriers can get right back in control of the conference if they can win that one. But it's a series at Wofford, Catamounts and Terriers. Boston College is at Clemson. Todd Enterdonato, the former Wofford coach, comes home. Not going to be an easy one. The Eagles are ranked in the top 25 in the country. But this is a series that would help Clemson go a long way toward kind of reestablishing its credentials if they can win that series, and particularly if they can sweep it. College of Charleston's at UNC Wilmington. The Cougars are trying to get back on track. Gardner-Webb's at USC Upstate. The Citadel's at Presbyterian in a non-conference series. Winthrop's at UNC Asheville. That should be a series where the Eagles can try to get healthy. Coastal Carolina's at Georgia Southern. Again, we mentioned that the Eagles have been struggling. That's one that Coastal needs to do well in. And South Carolina is at LSU for a 3-game set. The Gamecocks are ahead of the Tigers in the conference standings. 2 wins or a sweep, and they'll be assured of being ahead of them next week too. They lose 2 or get swept, and they'd be tied. I think, if they lose 2, and they go behind them if they get swept. So South Carolina, the better the chances are, the better they finish in the standings, the better the chances are playing team they're more competitive with once they get to the SEC tournament. Of course, that's a single elimination tournament coming up in late May in Hoover, suburban Birmingham area. Again, that was the week that was for South Carolina College baseball for this past week, April 20th through the 26th. You can always follow what's going on in the state at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I do updates of games on my X handle, which is Palmetto Base, and I would love to hear from you if you've watched this and Just let me know what you think about the coverage I'm doing. Comment on this post. Send me an email. Send me a direct message on X. I get kind of disappointed when I never hear any kind of interaction. I know you don't have any obligation to do it, but I just want to know that some people like what I'm trying to do for the game of college baseball in South Carolina. Again, you can email me at rudyjones@palmettostatebaseball.com. But for now, this is Rudy Jones. It's early on Monday morning, and I hope you have a great week. And remember, Jesus loves you. Good night.